You ever have those kinds of friends that, you get home from work or school and you hop into the Discord or the phone group call, and they are just always playing these competitive games. Whenever they ask you to, whenever they invite you to anything, or they want to play anything, it's always one of three things: car soccer, Overwatch, or League of Legends. And it just never strays from that. And no matter what you do, that's all they end up wanting to play. This is what I would call the competitive brain rot. Here's a quick little test that I think you could probably do with your friend group, and I think it'd be pretty enjoyable to try. Okay, so if you sit down and let's say you have about 3 or 4 of your friends in the call or whatever, and you ask them a question like, "Hey guys, let's play something. What should we play?" If most of the answers, if not all of them, are competitive games, I think that's where we get that competitive brain rot from. And look, okay, let me first preface this by saying that I like these games. Every game that I'm probably about to talk shit about, I have played every single one for probably hundreds of hours, okay? But there's a thin line between enjoying these games and being addicted to them. So the next time you ask your homie to hop on some games or some shit, and then they show you fucking car soccer again, just shake your head in disdain. But first, let's talk a little bit about why these games work and why they can be good sometimes. Usually my number one reason is because of the amount of players that can get into these games. A lot of these competitive games are usually 3 to 6 player range, and I feel like a lot of friend groups are about that size range in terms of how many people usually interact in them. A lot of those games end up appealing to these friend groups because it has such a large sample size of players. Whereas when you have 3 to 6 friends in a group, it's pretty hard to find games that all 6 people will actively play and enjoy. So your choice is either it's 3 fucking categories. It's these competitive games, survival games, and maybe MMOs. So it's understandable to kind of lean on these games as a bit of a crutch, because it's something very easy that anyone can actually get into. But soon a problem starts to arise when you start to find one person in the friend group is probably better than everyone else. Maybe 1 or 2 people are actively better than everyone else in the group. So you start to artificially create this divide between the group, whereas these people want to play this game and then the other ones don't really, because obviously they're not good at the game and they probably don't have enough time, or they're just not into those games like that. But the one thing they like doing is just fucking chilling with the homies and playing games. And that's what's odd about playing these competitive-esque type of games, because while I call them competitive type games, a lot of them are used as casual experiences. You have a lot of gamers who come home from work, come home from school, or whatever the fuck they happen to go throughout the day, and they come home and these are the games they log into. Now, you might hear that. Let's say you're not a part of this addiction cycle that all these people seem to be on. You might hear that and be like, how the fuck is hopping on this competitive type game where the idea or the goal is to win the game is somehow a chill, casual experience? It doesn't really make any sense to me. I've thought about that for a while, and I've played a lot of these games, and I've done that same thing where I get home and I just hop on the game and I just want to play a couple games and then I fuck off, right? But I never once in my mind thought yeah, this is a cozy, I get home from my 8-hour shift type of shit. I hop on and play. I've never thought of it that way. So I was always confused why, that's kind of the nature when you hear complaints of let's say you're in a fucking Overwatch game and you kind of just start talking shit to your teammate, not because you think they're fucking trash or they're a dumpster can, even though they are they're probably 0 and 10 or some shit, but you are just bantering for the sake of it, and they give you this reaction man, I just wanted to come home and I just wanted to game, bro. Why are you trying to make me try hard? It's I get it. Everyone can have whatever feelings they want to have about playing these types of games. You could do whatever you want. Yeah, you are not wrong for feeling this way or even having this opinion. But dog, what the fuck is your problem What is wrong with you? Why are you? This is you clearly just taking one look at either of these games, like any of these types of games, whether it's Apex, Overwatch, Deadlock, any of these fucking hero shooters, these FPS games, these tactical shooters, like Rainbow, any of that shit. How is it that you take one look at it and you cannot tell, like, oh shit, I can immediately tell how competitive and sweaty this game could get? And look, no hate to people that think that way. It's just, it's so confusing to have a game like that that's competitive by nature and try to change it into something that it isn't. Everyone on your team, whether it's 5, 6, 8, fucking 25 motherfuckers on the same team, everyone wants to win the game, right? Like how you have fun in those games is winning, or just teabagging the fuck out of some nerd that you outplayed. There is only so much type of fun that you can get out of the game, and the number one factor is winning. So when you play those games like that and you're expecting someone to treat you differently because you're just trying to have a chill experience and play the game, that's something you should just keep to yourself, right? If they're shit talking you, your first answer shouldn't be that. It should just be like this big fat mute button right there. Like, by design, that's how these games are made. And if you're going into that game expecting less than that, then I feel like that's kind of a personal issue that you're creating for yourself. I feel like it's not quite that these communities are always toxic or sweaty, which, I mean, that is true. Objectively, that is true that a lot of people that play these games are fucking sweaty ass, like 15-year-olds and other types of people who are way too good at these games for no reason. It should not be an enveloping complaint that, like, these games cannot be sweaty. I mean, think about, like, the difference between people who play these types of games and people who love playing fighting games, right? So, like, whenever people start to get into fighting games, those fighting games are, I would not call those competitive games, or people who play those games obsessively have, like, brain rot. I would say that playing those games and kind of getting good at them and playing them a lot is more like gaining a skill set, because to be able to be good at those games, you have to understand what you're doing and how to play it, or how, like, what character wins what matchup. How do you set up, like, combos, and it's very complicated. Whereas these other competitive games kind of, they have this foundation of being a fun, casual experience that is made for you to have fun, but on the back end, they're trying their best to keep it, like, competitive but also addictive at the same time. Like, there's something very weird about the fucking duality of how these games are made versus how people actually end up treating them. And what's interesting about this topic is that I do have friends that kind of understand this, right? They understand the level of commitment to make it purely an experience for fun. They keep it at exactly that, and they don't really focus on the number go up addiction that everyone else seems to have. That's why I'm kind of choosing to pick an angle where I can be a little understanding for the people who enjoy these games. I understand why people enjoy them, and it's kind of the same reasons why I like them too. I feel like you should not let it be something that will ruin your life, or something that you will fucking ruin the friend group dynamic for. Obviously, there's a psychological factor that works and is proven that it works. Of course, I understand why it happens, or why these games work and succeed at what they're doing. I'm gonna be real. One game I hate, but I know way too much information about it, purely because the stuff I consume and the fact that almost every single one of my friends play this game even now, and it has been almost a decade, and they continue to play this video game. And I'm sure many people know what I'm about to say, because it's pretty obvious, and it's fucking League of Legends, okay? I know way too much about that game because I hear about it constantly. Anytime something new is coming out of that game, I fucking hear about it. I have to read it. They're just, I hate it purely for that reason. I hear about all of the world esports, all of, like, you know, the fact that Faker won this thing, and I don't even give a shit about League of Legends. Like, it is probably the most, and I mean the most, talked about game on the planet by everyone, because so many people fucking play it, so many people enjoy it. And look, that's okay. maybe maybe it's okay. But my point is that from a observer's perspective, that game has a pretty good balance of the game being for fun because of the way it's designed. A lot of people take it way too seriously, whereas like there's a reason why in these games that they create ranked modes and non-ranked modes. The point is that one, you're supposed to be a bit more sweaty and care a lot more about, whereas the other one is supposed to be for fun. The reason, and I'm getting back to my previous point when I talked about how people take these games and try to make them more casual. By nature, these games cannot be casual, or they cannot be made purely for fun. Think about it, okay? Even if you're playing this game quote unquote for fun, or just to play some games and shoot some shit with your boys, all right? Like, how much fun are you really gonna be having if you're playing a fucking 30-minute league game or a 30-minute deadlock game and you're just losing the entire time? And let's say the whole team is your friend group. Imagine the voice comms that would be happening during that time. Like, are you really gonna shit talk your friends for, even if they're bottom fragging and they're feeding their fucking ass off, are you really going to let the game force you to be a dickhead to your friend? I mean, yes, obviously, of course you will, because you want to win, all right? This game is designed to make you want to win because winning feels good. Winning makes you feel like a badass. That's my problem with these games and why I call it competitive brain rot, because it slowly rots your brain into thinking that winning in these games, or that your addiction to these games, is a good thing. It's like something that you want to have. It's kind of like fucking McDonald's French fries, right? They probably got all these like processed ingredients and all this bullshit, but when they fucking fry them and they throw them in that little fucking bin thing and salt them, you know, while they're fucking hot, those things will go fucking hard. But just give it like 10 minutes and they're all stale and fucking floppy, and they're pretty nasty at that point. That's because it's made for that quick hit of dopamine that you get initially from eating them, but afterwards they turn into this fucking nasty mush. And that's what I think a lot of competitive games end up being. They exist purely for that initial idea, something that's supposed to be very fun and mentally engaging. It ends up kind of, after you play it for more than like a week, it slowly starts to dwindle, and your enjoyment will, unless you are, unlike me, you are someone who has the mental fortitude and you love the gameplay that much that you just continue to play it. God damn it, will I not stand for you dragging all your other friends into it because you just have no enjoyment other than seeing number go up, or killing this fucking player in this game like the 100th time, okay? Stop trying to corrupt people, okay? Get your toxins away from me. And look, again, just to clarify, right? I have no hate for these games or people who play them, or even the developers who make them. Just think about this, all right? Think about this one thing. Is there any actual game competitive, we're talking like a match, right? Is there any individual match that you can ever remember out of any of the competitive games you've played? Do you remember a single match? And that's where I feel like the issue is, because a lot of these games, I remember playing a lot of them and I enjoyed a lot of them, but I will never be able to recite a fucking match or something and be like, oh yeah, I remember that time when I went 10-0, like, because it's all fucking like throwaway, like those tiny hits of dopamine, and they kind of just go away after the fact, right? Like you forget completely about all of it the next day, because that's just how these games are designed, which is fine. It's okay for those things to exist, but there should not be so much value placed onto them. And I know I'm kind of looking at this objectively, kind of with some rose-tinted glasses, because honestly, outside of those games, which the industry seems to be obsessed with, there isn't many examples of these tight, like, co-op experiences. There's just like, what was the last game, like major co-op game we got was Space Marine 2, and that was 3-player. We just don't get those cooperative like experiences that you will just remember. There's one thing that I haven't done in a long time, but I want to get around to doing it again, was me and a buddy of mine, I've never played any of the Final Fantasy games, like the original ones. He wanted to show me one of his favorite game series, so we played Final Fantasy 2 together at the same time. And obviously that game is not co-op, but I remember so many individual experiences playing that game with him, because while we weren't experiencing the game at the same time, it was an experience for me. I had my fun enjoying the game for the first time, and he kind of, I feel like he got his enjoyment by, I guess in a way he could have been like jealous that I wish I was experiencing this game for the first time again, whereas you don't get that a lot.
Well, don't matter. She's dead anyways.
Oh, what? Blink, what?
Blink 26?
What the fuck? I feel like you don't have to rot your brain to the point where you only enjoy these games. Number have to go up or you're just not having fun. I hope that these experiences become more valuable to people so that these competitive rot games are actually made better, so that when you go to them, they are more balanced to be for fun games instead of having to try to cater to a competitive, sweaty like type of group of people, or these extremely casual players who only come around when a fucking battle pass drops. It's no wonder why fighting games are always kind of gatekeepy, in the sense that the people aren't gatekeeping them. It's like the fighting game itself is a natural fucking gate that people don't really want to go across. They don't really want to spend the time to, like, these games kind of unconsciously demand you to either know what you're doing or fight your way to learn how to understand it. Which is why it's obvious that Smash Ultimate is probably the most quote-unquote popular fighting game, because it is a game that literally anyone can get into, from extremely casual to extremely sweaty, or even pro and competitive levels. Like, it is such an easy game to just boot up and play. The only real bar of entry is that you need a fucking Nintendo Switch to play it. That's what makes Smash Ultimate a perfect example of a game to use for this video, is because it's a game that is, from the foundation, it was made to be for fun, for casual experiences. It's mainly a party game, even though it is a fighting game, which I feel like they made the perfect middle ground to be made for both kind of like super casual and super sweaty type of players. And that's really, I feel like that's really hard to be able to pull off. And a lot of these competitive hero shooters and these MOBAs, and they try a bit too hard to cater to both crowds, but instead of doing it like how Smash Ultimate does, by kind of standing in the middle, they kind of swap, right? Like, sometimes they favor the casual group by making a lot of changes that makes the game easier, but at the same time that ruins it for the sweaty players. Or they go way hard on the competitive side by making the game extremely hard to play, or like it offers the most skill expression, which is good for the people who enjoy those games. So while trying to cater for both crowds at the same time, you end up losing everyone. For anyone playing these games, maybe, you know, before you hit the play button on Steam, maybe think about it for a second. Could your time be better spent doing something else? Whether even if it's just playing a completely different game that you'll probably have a lot more memories with, instead of booting up a game of Overwatch and playing 30 games in a row and something that you're just gonna forget the next day. That was competitive brain rot, all right? Maybe stop having it. Play some better games, all right? Play some better games, all right? That's all I really have to say about it. You don't have to listen to me. Maybe do it, maybe don't. Anyway, see ya.